And good morning. Welcome to episode 7 of the Inside Drive podcast. Very lucky to have a returning guest. Appreciate him coming back on, even though he was just here on Thursday. And that's my good friend, JayeChapman. Jay, appreciate you coming in today. And, Colby's obviously not here. No, I'm going to leave that one alone for today. Those that know Colby understand things. He's got a full-time job too, so I'll give him a little bit of a pass on this one. But before we dive into everything, got to mention my two big sponsors, Panhandle Credit Union. The quality relationships they have with our community is what Panhandle Credit Union is all about, whether it is sponsoring an event, donating to a cause, providing loan options, or setting people up with great banking products. Panhandle Credit Union is here to serve those who live, work, and worship or attend school here in Bay and the other surrounding counties. Together, Panhandle Credit Union builds community. Visit panhandlecu.org or swing by any location to join. And then, of course, Golf Plus, my good friend Alan Watson over there in the Edgewater Shopping Plaza just got back from a little vacation, well-deserved vacation, because he's one of the hardest working men in Bay County that I know. Not only has Golf Plus been featured in Golf Digest magazine, but also Golf Magazine as one of the top club fitters in the nation. Their fitting studio will blow you away with the selection of brands and models of clubs and shafts. They also have a putting green filled with all the brands you could possibly want. The repair shop, second to none. Tour van quality repairs every time, and fast too. Golf Plus is your fitting studio and repair shop on the beach. Located in the shops at Edgewater, next to Firefly. Give them a call, 850-249-2726, or go online at golfplusretail.com. I know you can book your fittings and some simulator time as well, although the weather is finally starting to turn a little tiny bit nicer. Jay, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm good. It's good to be back.
Great to have you back. I appreciate you kind of jumping in last minute here. And, as you did on the last show, talk a little bit about, what you do. Obviously, everybody knows who you are, but, what do you do here in the community?
It's very generous. People know who I am, but I appreciate that sentiment. Yeah, my name's JayeChapman, Chapman Wealth Management, in association with Raymond James, and we really kind of just help people navigate all things financial. Typically, our clients are always worried about running out of money in retirement. That's typically what, or do I have enough saved to retire? When can I retire? And then there's a prioritization of goals that we typically help people assess, right? Do I pay my house off or do I invest, right? I mean, those are typical questions that people have. And so any sort of need that you would have in your financial life, please come and see us, and we'd help you walk through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of retirement, if somebody's maybe a little late in the game to putting away money and investing for the future, is it too late to start that,
Never too late to start. As a matter of fact, when you're running these compounding, computations, that's sort of, time is your biggest enemy in that sense, and also can be your greatest asset.
Yeah.
And so, no, the sooner you start, the better off you'll be. And so never too late to start. If you have questions about getting started and what that looks like, like I said, come see us, and we'll definitely help you figure out what you can do or what makes sense.
Absolutely. Because it's kind of like a partnership, right? They do good, you do good.
That's exactly
right. You do
right.
good, they do good. So it's a symbiotic relationship for sure.
It's exactly right. And, like I usually tell people on the front end, it's a little bit laborious, right? There's a little bit of data gathering that we have to do. And, but once we kind of get it up and running, it's typically a semi-annual, what we call like a full-on takeoff meeting where we're assessing where you are, what we could change or how we're doing and where we are in relation to what we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And, typically we're just, keep in touch. Anytime in between those semi-annual meetings that you have a question, a call, a life event, we're obviously, there to answer that, but typically, it's not a one-stop shop kind of done. I mean, we establish a partnership, so to speak, and then we just
kind of keep growing together.
That's exactly right.
And, a little humble brag, too, as well. You have an accreditation that's not an easy thing to accomplish. Kind of, further proving, that you're the real deal in the financial world.
Well, yeah, at least to some degree. So, I mean, I'm registered in the CFA program, the Chartered Financial Analyst program, and I was able to pass level 1 in May, which, again, you can kind of go look up what that is, but there's 2 other levels that you have to get through, but making your way through it is a daunting task, but one that I really, maybe I'm a nerd in some sense, but I really enjoy all the valuation applications to investments, right?
Yeah, I mean, and if you enjoy doing it, that's a huge part of life, no doubt about that. Where can they find Chapman Wealth Management?
Yeah, so our brick and mortar, office location is 2557 Hunt Cliff Lane, Panama City, Florida 32405, and our phone number is 850 867-8247, or you could just Chapman Wealth Management / at RaymondJames.com.
Yeah. The old internet.
Yeah,
you find
that's pretty
everything
much,
out there on the internet.
Some sort of Google search, yeah.
There you go. There you go. Chapman Wealth Management. Well, I appreciate you jumping on again
course.
today with me. We'll start, as we always do on Tuesday mornings, recapping some of the high school scores from last Friday. A lot of big spreads, big victories in this one. We'll start with the Bay and North Bay Haven game. I believe that was played at Mike Gavlak Stadium. Bay continues their hot start on the 2025 campaign with a 55-6 victory over North Bay Haven. Bay now moves to 3-0. North Bay Haven drops to 0-3. Bozeman, after coming off that big victory 2 weeks ago to Leon, had the tough task of bringing Bluntstown into the Bozeman Bucks Stadium. Bluntstown got off to a quick start, ended up winning that one 57-13. Bluntstown's now 2-0 on the season. Bozeman drops to 2-1. Still so far a great season for the Bucks. They look to bounce back this week coming up. Freeport and Northview. Freeport now 3-0 after a 48-43 victory over Northview. Mosley bounced back after the loss to Bay 2 weeks ago. They went on the road against Rickards over there in the, I believe that's in the Tallahassee area. They won that one 55-41. Saw some posts on Facebook about this game, some bad calls or some controversial things that happened to Rutherford in that Chipley game. Chipley won that one 39-26. Chipley's now 3-0. Rutherford falls to 0-2. And then last but not least, we had Weewa Hitchka traveled to Vernon. They won that one 40-6. Vernon now drops to 0-3. Weewa moves to 2-1. A lot of high school football action last Friday night. A few teams on a bye. We'll talk about the games coming up this Friday night on our Thursday episode of the Inside Drive. Got a cool guest, too, coming on Thursday. I got Coach Mask, who's the varsity volleyball coach for Mosley Dolphins. She'll be joining us on Thursday, in addition to Jay. My wife may sit on in that one, too, because she has a son who's dealing with the same thing I am. So we may talk about that a little bit and the caregiving side of things and kind of what, adjusting to life, with all this stuff going on. So should be a good episode. We might get into some real talk more than sports talk, but hey, that's what the Inside Drive's all about. We talk sports, we talk fun, we talk real life, and that's what we enjoy doing. You watch any college football this weekend?
I did watch some college football this weekend.
Let's start with the one game that might be the biggest surprise so far this season, or maybe USF is just the real deal.
Yeah, that's I thought that and of course the game is always a culmination of all the underlying
absolutely
but the spitting in the face at the end, gosh, I remember when I think it was Florida LSU a few years back when the gentleman threw the shoe. I mean, it's the same sort of idea, just like I know that there's it's sort of cliche-ish to say, oh yeah, these are a culmination, that one event isn't the thing that lost us the game, which is all true, but man, it was a major contributor to that. Yeah. And then of course, you always think about, of course, the play after that penalty.
Yep.
They rip off a big one for like 27. Yeah. So, but yeah, they USF looked well coached. And then
UF did not.
Yeah, they did not look well coached. But like you said, it's some of those deals with the coming into the preseason. I know that you talk about this all the time. Same thing that Alabama found out a week earlier is, this is all speculation early. You don't really know where you stand. Yep. And so that kind of helps.
USF could end up making the playoff for all we know down the road.
Florida State is now number 10, I saw. And then I also thought you might talk about, I don't want to skip forward. Of course, I had that lost from Florida. It slipped my mind a little bit. But the Mississippi State, Arizona State, I thought, wow.
Yeah, that was a game that I figured Arizona State was going to come into Starkville and get the dub. I actually put some money on that one. I was a little disappointed in that. The one game that was kind of wild, how every once in a while you see like a spread or a line that's like, why is that line? That game for me, and it came to fruition, was Illinois and Duke. Yeah. Illinois was a 2.5-point favorite against the Blue Devils. I think they won like 45-17 or something like that. So easy cover. But you worry about those because you're like, Vegas doesn't get it wrong very often. And that one kind of stuck out to me is like, why is Illinois only a 2.5? I believe it was in Champaign as well.
Yeah, and like you correct me if I'm wrong. I flipped back and forth on a couple of different games during that time, but I think that Duke had it fairly close for a little while.
I think early in that game. Here,
Yeah.
The final score was 45-19.
Oof, could have been that close.
Yeah, no, it was. It was.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember
last play of the second quarter. Duke actually got it within a point.
Yeah.
But then, Illinois ran off a touchdown, and they were up 28-13. Then the closest Duke got it in the second half was 28-19.
Yeah.
And then Illinois kind of pulled away in that one.
Yeah.
But still just is one of those spreads I was like, 2.5?
Yeah.
Actually, it was in Duke. It wasn't. It was not. It was in Durham, not in Champaign.
Okay.
So
Maybe that goes into it. So,
there was another game that was kind of going on simultaneously to the Florida game, and that was Troy and Clemson.
Man, I had that one on my radar when Troy was up to like 16-0 at one point. Yeah.
And then there were some interesting calls in that game that kind of led to the momentum kind of switching back to Clemson, but. Troy, they've been in the Sun Belt now for a little while, and they've played some good football.
And I feel like they're always they're slept on a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's people like it's funny. You talk about people go, oh, this goes to Troy. Man, it's a big time school. It's big time athletics.
My first time visiting Troy was last fall. Liam and I got to use some media passes. To go
cool!
Watch and Coastal got smacked, but it was still fun. We got to go on the field before the game and all that, and he was in heaven. Looking at all that stuff. But I mean, Troy, I had never been there. For some reason, I assumed it was like an older campus.
Yeah, no.
It's very modern. Beautiful buildings, beautiful facilities. I know somebody said there was some big donor that put a lot of money into the campus, and it's a beautiful place up there.
Yeah.
It's not too far away.
I have some family that's in college at the moment, and they're there, and they love it.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, I was watching that. They'll surprise some people. That sometimes they do every year. They surprise one of those bigger opponents, us quote unquote bigger. But yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, they almost had a top 10 upset.
Yeah, that's right. That would have been interesting.
That would have shook some things up, that's for sure. Getting back to that Florida-South Florida game, what did you think about the end of the game? Obviously, Florida had some interesting calls there late. I think at one point they had like a 99.9% chance of winning, and then just some interesting decisions. Obviously, South Florida kind of went down the field, scored that touchdown to go up 13-9, and then have that deep play where Florida had to start deep in their own zone and then got the safety. And you just kind of felt all the energy move out of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Obviously, then they marched all the way down the field with 12:29 left in the fourth quarter. They went up 16-15. Got the extra point. Surprised they didn't go for two on that one. And then the rest is kind of history. But that when they got the ball back with a chance to go down and score and take the lead once again, they passed on first down. Mm-hmm. And then obviously it was incomplete. I was listening to the announcers, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but they said that DJ Lagway had two options on that play. The play was designed to be a run, obviously, because who would pass when you're trying to finish the game off up by a point? And they said he checked out of the run and then threw the pass. If that happened, or if the play was called to be a pass, either way, you just can't do that.
Yeah, tough call. And then, like I said, of course, that's and you never know. The good thing is, especially for Florida, and obviously Bama is kind of the same idea. It's still so early in the season. Yeah. These are not,
they're not
crippling
losses.
Yeah, and you still can go. You hear all those coaches say we can still achieve everything we want to. But that's a teachable moment for sure. Like, hey, listen, if you're going to check out of the run, you better complete the pass inbounds like that. It needs
to be just like a run. Yeah.
Correct. Such a high percentage pass play that we're inbounds down. I mean, we're continuing to lead all the different things, but like I said, it's I'll tell a brief. It's my own instance, but I used to call my dad, and my mom and dad after I would pitch sometimes, and I give up a 2-run home run, a slider or something. My dad on the phone would go, man, why did you do like, dude? In the moment, it just kind of, in hindsight, it's always way easier. But those are mistakes that are hopefully can be corrected, and they're still early enough to where you can get them corrected.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and, the old parent adage after the fact, why did you do that?
Oh, man, it used to drive me nuts. Well, when I drew it up, it wasn't a 2-run homer.
Yeah. It was a punch out.
Yeah, that's right.
That's you see that in golf all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I was in golf, worked in golf my whole life. Millions of junior tournaments, not only played in, but also hosted and all that stuff. and you just saw parents like getting mad at their kid for hitting the shot in the bunker or hitting it over the green or something like that. Like, did you think I meant to
That's
do that?
exactly right.
No, I was trying to do what I wanted to do, and it obviously didn't happen. Because this game is hard. Put your money where your mouth is, and then let me know how it's going to be.
That's right. And there's a maturation process from a coaching standpoint and a leadership standpoint to knowing, that's why I say for Lagway, it's just a teachable moment.
Yeah.
He obviously didn't want
yeah.
to cause a clock issue, and you go, hey, next time let's just do what we had,
do what we had planned, or let's make sure we have a better game plan.
Yes, right, or complete, whatever. So, but like I said, moving forward, hopefully, they can still get back on track. And
well, they got to go to Baton Rouge coming up. I believe it's Saturday night, a little night game over there in Death Valley. It's not going to get any easier for those Gators.
And I was looking at the Gators schedule. I was like,
hardest in the nation.
And it seemed like it was that way either last year or the year before too. It's like every single game is.
It's brutal.
It was not good. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a really tough schedule. Hopefully you hope that they weigh that somehow or whatever, but that's tough, man.
Absolutely. Last question about that game. Do you think Billy Napier is in over his head coaching at Florida?
Man, I don't think so. I think he can get it figured out. And this is sort of the same deal. I mean, again, there's some, unfortunate circumstances that have, but it's just sort of the same idea. Of course, I don't pay attention that closely to Florida. They're in the SEC, obviously, so I'll follow them. But with like their whole recruiting and stuff, I think he's done a good job of roster management. I mean, DJ Lagway was like the number one dual threat, whatever. And so, maybe from a schematic perspective, I don't know but I do know this, and this is exactly what I was kind of illustrating last week. Where else? I mean, who do you go get? I don't know. I mean, but no, to answer your question, I think he can figure it out. I think he's probably going to have to figure it out
quickly.
Yes.
He's going to have to win some of these games coming up, and it's going to be real tough.
And that's just
a huge opportunity in front of him over the next several weeks.
Yeah, that's the way I think that he would be looking at. I can't remember. Oh, you know what it was? It was in Netflix. It was that SEC.
Yes.
But and that's kind of where I'm basing some of my assessment on. They followed him around a little bit, him and for South Carolina.
Beamer.
And I really grew to kind of just like who they were as people. And I think that Billy Napier seems to have a level head.
Absolutely.
And will view his opportunity. But, same thing that you would know is in high-level sports, everything else, head's got to roll if it ain't going right.
Absolutely. I mean, he's got a tough draw every year with that brutal schedule.
I know.
So. All right, let's talk a little NFL football again. We've got Keith Flemming coming up at 11:30 to talk about the stats that he's noticed, some of the things out of Week 1. Obviously, it gets tough, or it gets easier. Not easier, that's not the right word. But Week 1, you have no idea what to expect with players and stuff like that. Now we at least have a little bit of data to work off of when you're trying to craft those lineups. We'll start with the Thursday night game. Obviously, that was on after our show on Thursday. Eagles got the dub in that one, 24-20. I feel like Cowboys had a chance there at the end of the game, and just a couple, missed receptions there by CeeDee Lamb. Eagles start out in their division 1-0. Cowboys drop to 0-1. And then you had the game down there in São Paulo, Brazil, between the Chiefs and the Chargers. That was one I thought the Chiefs were going to drop that one. I don't know if it's playing on the, in an international. I don't know if they've played an international game before. I don't think the Chargers had either. But there was I think the trend was Jim Harbaugh was 5-0 in his opening games leading up to that game. So now he's 6-0 in opening games. So you don't want to bet against
it's a good trend.
Jim Harbaugh on opening games in the NFL now, because he's obviously no longer in college. But the Chargers looked pretty sharp in that game. Justin Herbert had a great game. Xavier Worthy going down early in that one seemed to, maybe mess up their game plan a little bit. And he's likely to be out for a few weeks with a dislocated shoulder. You just hope there's no tendon issues or anything like that, because that was some friendly fire too from Travis Kelce. Obviously not on purpose, but one of those things that you just want to avoid. Saints held in there for a little while against the Cardinals. I think a lot of people didn't expect Spencer Rattler to play as decent as he did. I thought Tyler Shuck was going to be the starting quarterback for the Saints out of Louisville, and then maybe he had a little setback or something like that. But Spencer Rattler was leading the charge for the Saints. They dropped that one to the Cardinals 20-13. I don't want to say it's a surprise, but maybe it is. The Daniel Jones-led Colts.
Wow.
And then obviously the Dolphins kind of laid a big egg on that first game of the season, only scoring 8 points and getting outplayed tremendously by the Indianapolis Colts. Danny Dimes, kind of a little resurgence there. We'll see if he can keep it up there with the Indianapolis Colts. But they have a good line, and they got good weapons on the outside. And obviously Jonathan Taylor's a wonderful running back. But a little surprised Tua just didn't look great.
He didn't
for
look
Miami.
great.
And I don't know if it's just he's still, trying to reestablish himself as a premier quarterback in the league, or, the weapons around him are just not, doing what they need to be doing. So that was kind of a surprising one for me on both sides.
Yeah.
The Dolphins not looking that great. And then, of course, the Colts led by Danny Dimes looking pretty darn good. Raiders-Patriots. Raiders with the new era there with Geno Smith. Got the best of Drake May, second-year quarterback. They won that one 20-13. Steelers-Jets. Aaron Rodgers, 1-0 as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Actually looked pretty decent in that
Did
game.
look, he's bounced around a little bit, man.
In the later stages of his career.
Interesting to see him in the uni.
Yes, in the black and gold. Just doesn't quite make sense. Giants, Commanders. Commanders took. There's not a whole lot to take away from that. Jaden Daniels is still a stud. The only thing I will say is I don't know how quickly Russell Wilson's going to remain the starter for the Giants.
Yeah.
He just did not look very mobile in the pocket. A lot of pressure from the Commanders' front line there on the D-line, and he just couldn't get away from it and didn't really have a whole lot of time to throw any good balls. Malik Neighbors had an okay game, but he just didn't have time to get to him. So, do you move on to the rookie Jackson Dart, or do you kind of let Russell Wilson, maybe they can figure it out over the next couple of weeks before you put all that on the rookie?
Yeah, I think you have to be really careful before you do put it on the rookie, because if it is an offensive line issue, that like we used to say in baseball, the big league cemetery is full of people that get their rush too quickly.
Too quick, yep. You've seen that with NFL quarterbacks.
That's right, I'm
quite a bit
saying.
as
And
well.
so if it's an offensive line issue, let Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and maybe the team around him will get
Yes,
better over the
that's
next
right.
couple weeks.
That's
and
exactly
then
right.
you go to Jackson
That's
Dart.
right.
So the team's playing a little bit better football first. I agree with that. Panthers, Jags. Travis Hunter's debut is a win for the Jags, 26-10. Bryce Young just did not look comfortable out there. I think that was a nationally televised game here locally. So
Yeah, he's pulling for him, but man.
And what you just said, he might be one of those guys that got thrown to the fire too quickly and never had time to really adjust to the speed of the game. And, Falcons, I'm sure Keith will mention this. He's a big Falcons fan. Falcons going to Falcon.
Yeah.
Had some chances. Buccaneers, Emeka Umbuka had the game-winning touchdown there from Baker Mayfield. It looked like the Falcons were going to tie it up there at the end, but the Younghoe Koo missed field goal led to the Bucs' 23-20 victory. Cam Ward's NFL debut was spoiled by Bo Nix, really by the Denver Broncos defense, which in my opinion might be the best defense in the league, especially after watching them play. I mean, Titans aren't a powerhouse by any stretch of the imagination, but Broncos got a home win to start their season 1-0, 20-12. Cam Ward made some decent plays, but it was basically a field goal fest there for the Tennessee Titans. Surprised by this one. Packers 27, Lions 13.
Yeah.
And that 13 came in the garbage touchdown kind of late in that game. So Packers really dominated that one. Are the Lions just not going to play as good as they did last year? Or are the Packers, is this the year for the Packers?
Man,
I know we're only one game in, but.
Yeah, I thought the Packers looked for real.
Yeah.
And so maybe it is the Packers' time. Yeah.
And I get it. Jared Goff doesn't play great, not in domes, but the Packers, Micah Parsons coming out, the fans were nuts. It was a home game. It just all the energy and momentum there was for the Packers. So we shall see. I know the Lions, I believe, play the Bears this upcoming week. Texans, Rams. I was hoping Texans would get this one so the Rams wouldn't be 1-0 in the division. Rams, Stafford looked pretty good. Texans defense held them enough. Texans had a chance late in the game, but there was a couple fumbles late that blew the Texans' chances. Rams won that one 14-9. And real quick, the Niners game, I thought we were going to lose that all game long. And then late in the game, because Kittle went out, Jennings went out, we basically have no weapons anymore except CMC and Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall made a huge catch kind of late in the fourth quarter, got him all the way down. And then Tungus, who's a third-string tight end, made his first 3 NFL catches in that game. And that third one was that huge touchdown catch, kind of pulled it away from the defender. And then Nick Bosa pushed his offensive tackle into Sam Darnold and fumbled the ball. Bosa recovered it, sealed the deal for a Niners win. But a little concerned. Kittle's out for a few weeks with a hamstring injury, and then Brock Purdy may not play this weekend. He has a toe injury and a shoulder injury. They're more concerned about the toe injury.
Is it like a turf toe deal?
I think so.
Ooh,
yeah, which
that's not good.
Yeah, he could be out for a while. But I mean, the Niners were so injured last year as well. It's not surprising that we kind of keep this trend going on. I think they've been the most injured team in the league over the last 10 years. Crazy one Sunday night, Bills Ravens. I think we all thought that the Ravens were going to get that one done. You went to bed thinking it was going to. I kind of did the same thing. I feel
guilty
too.
about it.
Yeah. Because it was, 40-25 in the fourth quarter? Yeah, when Derrick Henry ran another bomb for 46 yards. They went up 40-25 with 11:42 left in the game. And then Keon Coleman caught a touchdown pass. And then I believe Derrick Henry fumbled the ball. And then another touchdown by Josh Allen. And then they did not get the 2-point conversion. Ended up getting the ball back, marching down the field 66 yards, and set up a 32-yard Matt Prater walk-off field goal.
How amazing is Josh Allen?
He's pretty damn good.
It's funny that you say that because I was joking with you before we went on air. It was 11. I remember it being like 11 minutes change. I know we got to hustle, but I thought, Bills have the ball. If they score, it could be 8-point, one-score game, whatever. 40-25. That just looked like
an insurmountable.
Yes, that's right. I said,
deficit,
you know what? I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Then I wake up. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's unreal.
It's never over, I guess, until it's over. Kind of similar last night as well. Bears got up pretty decent in that game. It's kind of the tale of two halves. First half, the Bears looked a little bit better. Obviously, in the third quarter, J.J. McCarthy threw that pick six. At that point, Chicago was up 17-6. You kind of thought that, maybe Chicago's going to shut down, the Vikings with their good defense. But it was actually the opposite. And kudos to J.J. McCarthy. I know we were talking about this before the show as well. But, second-year quarterback, technically it's his first year playing as a starter because last year, obviously, Sam Darnold was the starter. A lot of times these young guys, you throw that pick six, you can get rattled and you can't bounce back. I think J.J. McCarthy did a great job of the opposite of that, throwing that pick six and then bouncing right back and driving down the field with a nice 13-yard pass to Justin Jefferson to get within 5, and then, drove down the field again, had that nice pass to Aaron Jones, little spin catch in the end zone, and then put the game away with a little fake to the left, and he bootlegs out to the right, runs it to the pylon, put Minnesota up 27-17, and then Rome Odunze got that 1-yard pass late in the game right before the 2-minute warning. A cool thing I do want to mention is on the last Vikings kickoff return, he caught it about 7 yards deep in the end zone. But then Kevin O'Connell told him to come out because it avoided the 2-minute warning.
The clock, yep.
Yes.
I thought that was super cool.
Smart coaching there.
I thought the same thing.
Good job by his kick returner to pay attention to that and make a high football IQ play.
Yes. When he got you, they do you see him on the sideline do it.
Come out of the end zone.
Super cool.
Very smart. Those are things that make differences, across the course of a season. We were talking a little bit earlier, too, J.J. McCarthy, he throws that pick six, but he bounces right back and looks pretty good the rest of the way in that game. That's something, you've probably experienced in your career. You make a mistake. What do you do after that? Do you succumb to that mistake or do you bounce back?
Yeah, the way that I was kind of telling you a little earlier, there's a, in my opinion, I'm not, speaking of myself as being mature, but there was a maturation process for me to understand the difference between the self-talk of like, hey man, like let's go back and say I threw a slider and a guy hit 2-run homer. There was a self-talk aspect of like, hey, my slider isn't bad. That was a bad pitch, and he was there to basically exploit it.
Yeah.
And so, but if I make a good one, he's out. And I think, understanding that aspect from J.J. McCarthy, he's like, okay, yes, I did throw a pick six, but I'm not a bad quarterback. Yeah. I just misdiagnosed that coverage or whatever.
Mistake.
That's exactly right. Yep. And so, but if I would have correctly diagnosed it, I can make a great pass. And I think just having an understanding between isolated incidents, that they don't mean that you're a bad quarterback, but you can talk yourself really quickly. And in golf, it's the same. I hit a bad drive, and now I have a bad drive.
Yeah. And you let that bleed through the rest of your round. Right. And that's the mental toughness that some people have, and some people don't.
That's right.
And that's in life as well.
That's exactly right.
A lot of bad breaks in life, but what you do after that break, is what defines who you are as a person.
100%.
I thought that was impressive stuff there
Same.
by J.J. McCarthy. We'll go ahead and give Keith Flemming a call. We'll get him on the line if you want to grab your headphones, Jay.
Absolutely.
All right, week one in the books. Jay and I just kind of recapped, a lot of the games, some of the storylines from the games. Obviously, from the fantasy side of things, the DFS fantasy side specifically, week one is over, so now you at least have a smidge of data to work off of. What are some of the data stats that might have stuck out to you on week one?
So I'm always looking, obviously, for opportunity, right? Volume, snap share, etc. It's also, I think, important to look at, on the defensive side of the ball, say some really difficult matchups that it appears, defenses obviously change year to year, but
Yeah,
the first one is Bucky Irving
I
for the
love
Tampa
Bucky.
Bay Bucks. I was so
Stud.
wrong. I thought that they were going to use him similar to last year. And the fact that he played 70+% of the snaps in the Bucks opener, I mean, this was a guy that was a top 5 running back in fantasy to close out like the last 6 weeks of the 2024 season. And he was playing like 52% of the snaps. So if somebody has not figured out, because Bucky did not have a good game,
No.
that's somebody I will be targeting for a trade in your fantasy leagues, like 110%. Because if he's going to play 70+% of the snaps, and remember, Rashad White was healthy, Tucker was healthy, he is going to be somebody who I think is going to have a lot of really good weeks to come, especially when Morph gets back on the O line. Another backfield where we saw like kind of some surprising numbers. Zach Charbonnet
Yeah,
led the
I watched
Seahawks
this whole
backfield
game.
in snap percentage. 58 percentage. He had 12 carries to Kenneth Walker's 40 percentage of snaps and just 10 carries. I mean, I am concerned if you're a Kenneth Walker owner because it appears that it's going to be a true split backfield. And I honestly think Zach Charbonnet is the better back. It was just a situation where everybody assumed these two guys were on the same team last year, and it leaned very heavily to Kenneth Walker in the utilization, basically numbers, and that's changed. So those are two backs that, you should be targeting, I think. Charbonnet may be available off of waivers depending, your league. Um, we were reminded that Patrick Surtain maybe deserves his own island, kind of like Revis Island, their Surtain Island,
I like the
because
way Sertain Island sounds better.
he was incredible,
He
man.
was. Their
Week
defense won
one,
that game.
boy, their offense definitely didn't, but he covered
Facts.
He covered Calvin Ridley on 27 of 32 of Ridley's routes. Ridley saw one target for 0 receptions on those 27 routes. The other 5 where he was not covered by Surtain, he caught 4 passes for 27 yards. So I think that is something we're going to see week after week, and I do not want anything to do with Patrick Surtain if I have like my number one wide receiver facing him this season. JSN was the only bright spot to what was a very bad performance by the Seattle Seahawks offense. But he
230
is,
total yards, I believe, is what it was.
Mm.
and it was basically all JSN to your point.
Yeah.
Like he was it. And the numbers are even better than you think. Like for starters, he was a slot receiver last year, and that kind of limits the upside of some of these wide receivers. This week one, he only played 29% of the snaps in the slot, and his average depth of target went way up, which that was something last year that was really frustrating. Is he would have where they're throwing the ball down the field to him. And in other games, they'd be throwing them, like screens and quick slants and stuff. Almost 14 yards was his average, pass attempt, how far it traveled before it got to him. 56% of Sam Darnold's pass attempts went to JSN. He also accounted for 56% of the Seahawks' completed passes and almost 83% of Darnold's passing yards. But the most impressive thing, one of my favorite stats for wide receivers, his first read target was 66.7%. That's 13% higher than the second highest wide receiver. And if you don't know what that means that the play is basically designed for that person. The first read for the quarterback once they snap the ball is to go to this pass catcher. JSN 66.7%. Like for reference, Lamb, Puka, and London were all in the 40 to 46% range. He's getting 20% more of the first read targets. That means he is probably going to have a big season, even if the
Yeah,
Seahawks offense is not great.
he's going to be their guy. He may end up being, top 5 wide receiver this year, maybe
And
easily.
was a real value. You could
Yeah.
have got him pretty late drafts. We talked about the Micah Parsons trade last week. Well, I said the Cowboys are idiots. It's a dumb trade. You can't convince me anything otherwise. I mean, he's a 26-year-old edge rusher who's arguably the best in the game, and that was in full effect
Mm.
against the Packers. He played 29 snaps. The Packers sacked Goff 3 times and only allowed 2.4 yards per play. The longest Lions gain on those 29 plays was just 16 yards. Goff time to throw with Parsons on the field just 2.8
Less
seconds.
than
With
3
Parsons
seconds to
off
get the
the
ball
field,
out. Y'all try to throw a ball in less than 3
3.36.
seconds.
That's value. Like, I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody says. People say he can't stop the run, he can't do that. You know what all teams do? They throw the ball, and they throw it a lot. And having a guy that can make that kind of impact, it's huge. I think Green Bay's defense, which is probably available in a lot of fantasy leagues, is somebody you absolutely should be getting. Um, a lot of people were surprised this week by Quentin Johnson and Kayshon Boutte, who had big games in week one for the Chargers and the Patriots, but that followed a theme that we saw last year down the final month of the NFL season, where both of these guys ranked top 7 in receiving yards over the last 4 weeks of the 2024 NFL season. So, again, these are guys that I would be looking to go grab. Like, I don't know if Quentin Johnson is definitely available in your league, but I guarantee you more than likely Kayshon Boutte is.
Is it
And
Booty? Because that's wild if it is. I hope it's Booty.
it's probably not Booty. I mean, it's just me. I dreamed of him signing with Atlantic so we could hear Penix to Booty over and over again. But we can't always get what we want. I think the Stones said that. There's a rookie who there is some data that shows he should be somebody you're going to target on the waiver wire this week, and that's I'm going to butcher his last name, but Eric Iomanner, who played 78% of the snaps for the Tennessee Titans. That is a huge rate for a fifth-round rookie making his first start. But even more importantly, again, that first read target, almost 37%. Now that's the ninth highest among wide receivers. Sure, there is a chance that that was they knew Surtain was on Calvin Ridley, so they, went into the game deciding they were going to throw it more to him or make him be the first option. But either way, he's going to be heavily involved in this offense. I think Cam Ward is really good. And to your point, Ryan, that Denver's Broncos defense is for real. Like,
Yeah.
the offense may have some issues. We saw that week one,
Their run game
but
looked good, but
it did,
Bo
but
just didn't play
let's
great
see
on the
against some
passing.
tougher, rush
Yeah.
opponents. Because
Yeah, no
Tennessee,
doubt.
I wonder how good their run defense is.
True.
And then the final stat I have to bring up, you heard me this summer talking about how important it is to have a dual threat quarterback, somebody that runs. And boy, did I look smart after week one. 36% of the rushing touchdowns week one were scored by quarterbacks. 42% no, excuse me, 36% of the players to score a touchdown were by quarterbacks. 42% of the total touchdowns were by quarterbacks. 66% of the players to score multiple rushing touchdowns week one were quarterbacks. And even if you look at the rushing yards, 7 of the top 30 guys in rushing after 1 week in the NFL are quarterbacks. It's
It's
becoming
the
more
new
and more
NFL.
valuable,
Yeah.
particularly in fantasy.
No doubt.
Exactly.
No doubt.
It's not the pocket passer, your dad's league. These are dual threat guys that can make plays with both their arm and their legs.
It is Booty, by the way. I looked it up while you were giving us some good information.
Yes.
It is Booty. So you nailed it. You nailed the Booty.
Penix to Booty. Yep. And we know I normally don't nail pronunciation, so
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
not your
victory for me.
strongest suit. So that's why we need to remember this moment. All right.
Absolutely. But
Official
uh,
lineup for who are you looking at for this week coming up? Week 2, you have data now. You've seen games. You've seen the defensive matchups. Obviously, 1 week's not a ton of information, but at least get you a little more educated guesses out there.
sure. And these are not like an official lineup because I don't want to tell people that because I'm probably going to change them. But these
That's
are
why you need to
guys that,
follow
because
you throughout the week to see what your official stuff is and what you're leaning towards as things change throughout the week.
Brian, I take back that mean thing I said about you at the start of the segment. You're a great guy.
I
Yeah, I just
appreciate
want
it.
to look at, the quick glance at prices because, I mean, the prices just came out this morning for this week. But Justin Herbert, 5,900 at Vegas is the quarterback that I'm looking at. If there was any doubt that Greg Roman is going to transform this Chargers offense into a passing attack that highlights the skills of Justin Herbert, that was proved basically in week one that that's what's happening, because
Without a
this was the
doubt.
first
Yeah.
time he threw for 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns in the Harbaugh era. And most importantly, what I love to see, because I've been frustrated, Herbert is like every bit the athlete that Josh Allen is. For whatever reason, they have not allowed him to run. He had 7 carries for 32 yards. If you're telling me Justin Herbert's going to rush for 20, 30 yards every week, he's got a great chance to end up being a top 5 quarterback in fantasy this year. The running backs, just take somebody from the Arizona Cardinals. James Conner, 6,500. Trey Benson's 4,600. They're playing the Carolina Panthers. I'm not sold that Travis Etienne is all of a sudden a good running back. I'm not sold that the Jacksonville Jaguars are this great rushing attack, but they still ran for 200 yards on 32 carries. That's over 6 yards per carries versus Carolina week one. And again, ETN rushed for 143 yards and almost 9 yards per carry. I think that that's going to be a theme. We started picking on the Carolina Panthers rush defense late last season. Me and Joe Matz did. That's going to continue this year. I just got to figure out, would I rather save the money with Benson, who's going to probably get less carries, or do you go ahead and spend on James Conner? The wide receiver position, these guys will be in my lineup. Zay Flowers, 6,200, was one of the steals of the fantasy drafts this summer. He's the only clear number one wide receiver who's in an elite offense that people allowed to slip in drafts, to where he was the 27th wide receiver drafted for his average draft position week one. In a game that I want to remind people, the Ravens led for almost all of it. He saw 9 targets, caught 7 balls for 143 yards and a score. And again, that first retarget to me is such a big stat. 53.3%, the second highest first read target in the NFL week one, only led by JSN. Zay Flowers is a great value versus Cleveland. Ted McMillan,
Keith, real quick, I got some
5,400.
breaking news that's going to make me and all the other Niners fans happy. 49ers are
Okay.
officially waiving kicker Jake Moody. Thank
Oh, I thought you
goodness.
were going to say Young Ho Koo, because we both are
Yeah.
having kicker issues right now.
Yes. Yeah, no, Jake Moody was awful in that game, and if they didn't release him, they might have had a revolt there in Santa Clara. Who knows?
Why would our teams, with the issues that Moody and Koo had down the stretch, because Koo had missed a field goal in 6 of his last 9 and only made, I think 60% of his field goals over his last 10 games. I know Moody had all kinds of trouble late last year.
I think he wasn't
I
even close
do
to
really hold the
50%.
front office responsible for going into week one with this guy as your kicker in a league that so many games are decided by 3
Oh, yeah,
points
and
or
these other
less.
guys are
It
just
cost the
banging through
Falcons,
55 yarders like it's
Yep.
nothing. We can't make 27
Yep.
yarders. Ugh,
I'm with you.
yeah,
It's
brutal.
infuriating.
It is.
Well,
It
good for
is.
you, though. I do
Yes,
still like the 49ers. I know y'all can't stay healthy, but
we cannot
I'm
stay
very
healthy.
encouraged from what I saw from CMC. But the rookie from Carolina is the other receiver, 5,400, Ted McMillan. I know he kind of underwhelmed in the box score, but his usage shows a receiver with top 15 upside this season. Ran routes on 88% of their passing plays, saw a 27% target share. That's 9 targets. The air yard share was really big, almost 41%, and almost ran 2 yards per route run. So, and he's going to get an easier defense, I think, to throw on in Arizona than, believe it or not, with Jacksonville. And then the tight ends, man, there is value at tight
All
ends.
over the place.
It's proven again. I'm a big believer in playing 2 tight ends in a lot of DK lineups. We should not have been surprised that Geno Smith would be heavily involved in an Arthur Smith offense, especially if you're a Falcons fan like me. He saw 6 targets versus the Jets, catching 5 of them and a touchdown. He's only 3,900 versus Seattle. But the real breakout star, and the guy that I whiffed on because I had to joke everywhere, Harold Fannin Jr. is 3,100 at Baltimore. He saw 9 targets, caught 7 passes. He also had a rushing attempt in his debut. What I liked the most was just they used him all over the place. He lined
Everywhere.
up at fullback. He lined up at wide receiver. He lined up on the end line. If they're going to use him like this, which it seems they are, Joe Flacco is notorious for targeting tight ends. We saw that again in week one with both Njoku and Fanning having good games. I think Fannin at 3,100 is just a steal on DK and somebody you absolutely should be trying to pick up off of waivers this week if he's available.
Especially if you had George Kittle as your tight end, because it's probably going to be a little while
Oh
before he's
man,
back.
he was going to have such a good year too.
He was
I
going to
just
have
hope
a
he gets
huge
back
game
sooner
in
rather
that
than later.
game, and then
Yep.
it was brutal.
Oh, it was.
Anyway, Keith, let everybody know. Obviously, you have some plays today, but then as the week continues on, the more you look at things, you kind of have some additional plays and some different recommendations as the week goes on. Where can they find that information?
Yeah, if you again go to fantasy6pack.net, you can find all my written information. I do a full main game slate preview each week. And then really it's Friday nights on the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel at 9 p.m. Me and Joe Matz will do cash game. Basically our favorite plays. This is a small group of people that were playing in cash game lineups, which is what I recommend. But then right after that at 10 p.m., we're joined by Kevin Tompkins. And that's where we have fun, honestly, just building GPP or multi entry event lineups. This week, we went for almost an hour of just building different lineups. We take games and, go heavy on that game. It's a lot of fun, but it's the 9 p.m. show where it's a really valuable information if you are doing what you're supposed to, which is playing in just 50-50s or single entries. And then you can also find on Fantasy Six Packs Discord and on fantasy6pack.net. I actually do an official cash game cheat sheet, which that has all my favorite cash game plays for the week, as well as notes. You do have to join the premium membership, but it's just $8.50 a month with the promo code F6P NFL.
There you go. Liam officially learned about the 50-50 stuff this past weekend. He's like, I should just do these. I was like, yeah, that's what Keith Flemming tells everybody. If you want to win
Smart
money,
kid,
just
man.
do the 50-50, the double ups, and you just
Smart
you just
kid.
got to beat half the field and you double your money. It's really not rocket
Yep.
science, especially if they pay attention to all the good stuff you have. Keith, we appreciate your
I
time
appreciate it, man.
as always. Hopefully the Falcons can rebound in week 2 for you, and the kicking woes may get changed a little bit. Maybe this is the waterfall for the kickers that did not do good to be let go.
Don't forget, Ryan. Falcon's gonna Falcon.
I said that
That's one thing I've
to
learned
Jay
in
earlier
my
in the
life.
show. Falcon's gonna Falcon. There's no doubt about that. Keith, tell Brittany we said hello, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Take care,
Thanks.
Keith. Bye. It's a lot of data, but data matters.
It does matter.
Right? Data mattered for
Of
you when you
course.
were pitching. You got to know what tendencies are. I love the usage stuff. If you're getting the volume of the targets, it's a no-brainer. And this isn't weekly fantasy. This is just the daily fantasy stuff, which is probably the most popular thing in NFL betting right now. But data matters. Usage matters. Your opponent matters. Like, anybody can sign up and go just pick people kind of just randomly. But if you're picking with information, that's why I love Key so much. Yeah, he goes on, and sometimes, it may not be real flashy and interesting, but DFS is about winning money.
A lot of the stuff that's worth it isn't that flashy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Real quick, I think I've told you before, but I'm trying to make it analogous to, especially when you get to the higher levels, it's all surrounding data. You know, like I said, when I would go into a game, not that people probably cared too much about this, but I wanted to know first pitch swing percentage of the next 4 guys. I want to know what they chase with 2 strikes. I want to know what they hit on breaking balls behind the count for strike, because I want to know all the information if I got into those counts. Like I said, Albert Pujols was one of the ones that he never swung at the first pitch. I mean, that's just like literally. Yeah, so you just kind of know, okay, well, this guy swings at league average 35%. This guy swings well above that. Okay, I need to know that. So I'll just throw a cookie or whatever. But like you said, if you don't know that stuff, you're going to get punished, and you go, man, I could have been better just by a little bit more, I guess you'd say a little more educated.
How did you get that information?
So that was all of our advanced scoutings, department that would compile.
Think it's all AI now?
It probably is, yeah. But oh my gosh, what they can do with that stuff is probably insane. But obviously I played with Anthony Rizzo for a little while, and I always thought it was super smart. At the end of every season, he would come in and say, all right, I want you to go report back to me with what other teams have as my scouting report, or the same things that I'm basically viewing
What
in the
are they
bullpen.
getting from me?
What are they? How are their? Where are my holes, or where are they saying they're going to try and pitch to me? And because you camouflage pitches, but you try to go somewhere to get an out.
Yeah.
Right. But anyways, my whole point is back to Keith. I mean, with all that information, like I said, they're not 100% staples, but man, they increase your odds
Yeah.
of making the right.
And that's what it's all about.
100%,
It's like when you go to a
man.
casino, you want to play the games that give you the best odds against the house.
That whole thing was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like you said, even percentage of first reads, I thought, or primary reads or whatever he did. I thought, man, that's a great stat to know. Who's the guy it's designed for?
Yep. Who's the ball supposed to
That's
go to
exactly-
before he looks off that receiver if
Correct.
he's not open? Because that stuff matters when it comes to the
Well,
points they
and
get.
even that he said, you don't, you're looking at Patrick Surtain. Well, you need to understand that. Okay, well, this guy didn't get that many targets, but that's probably because he was right.
He wasn't open.
Yeah, so maybe next week it's different.
Yeah.
You need to know that stuff. I thought that was great.
I enjoy it. I find it very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And I know we have some listeners that tune in just to hear
Oh,
Keith
man.
stuff. It's good stuff, especially if
let's-
you're like a data nerd and it just kind of makes some stuff fire in your brain. And,
So you're asking about the fantasy deal, but
Yeah.
this is sort of why there's a reason why I harness myself, because
you would just
it's a times for me. I would just that's my personality. This is
it's
sort
just
of
how
like,
your brain works.
and I'm like you have to protect a little bit of my
Yeah.
time, just because I would just be lost in it, and like, hey, where'd the last 4 hours go?
yeah, I'm just researching for the last 4 hours.
Fantasy football.
But I mean, if that's how your brain works,
No,
then
it is
sometimes
what
it's
it
a good
is.
thing, no
Yeah.
doubt. I don't really follow professional baseball. Most people already
Yeah,
know
so-
that. Who's going to win the World Series this year?
Oh man,
Can the Cubs continue their great season through the playoffs?
I think so. I think the Phillies are primed, right? I mean, they're I just love that team, and they seem to always kind of create some sort of, or at least of late, magic in the postseason. I know who it's not going to be, and I feel bad about saying this, but the Braves, man, they have had a terrible, some injury stuff too with Strider and all this, but man, they just haven't looked.
No, they can't get back to the 2021
Yeah,
year.
and
you see that a
the
lot
Do-
with teams sometimes. You
Yeah,
have a lot of success, and you're trying to keep that success going. But in the reality of the business,
Yep.
it's hard to keep that same core group together and move forward with it.
And the payrolls get extended. You
Yep.
look at the Dodgers. Like I said, I mean, they're
Yeah.
always going to be, in my opinion, right up there competing for it because, like I said,
Yeah, they don't care
money
about that
talks. Yeah, I
luxury
mean,
tax.
that's,
Yeah, they're like, here you go. We'll spend
yeah.
as much as we want. We'll pay you our
Yeah.
percentage.
So, but of course, these are NL teams. Philly, I think the Padres they look really, really good. So, but I'm thinking, Philly or LA, something like that. Yeah.
The usual suspects.
Yeah, usual suspects,
so
at
to
least for
speak.
this cycle, right?
So to speak. If you were going into the playoffs, would you rather continue playing or would you want that first round bye?
Me personally, and again, you'd have to assess who needs a little bit of
Yeah,
rest, but I
yeah.
would prefer to keep playing.
Keep playing, yeah.
There's, like I said, there's there's the diminishing returns. I don't want to get all this stuff, but 1 day off is huge. 2 days off, 3 days off. That's exactly right.
You want to get back out
That's
there
right.
and you're jonesing to play.
100%. Like, so maybe a day or two break, but to have a full set off, I think to get it
Especially
back.
when you're used to playing almost every day.
Well, and like I said, of course, my dad's a big music fan, and he was saying some of these, lead guitarists would say, "Hey, if I don't play for a day, I notice it. If I don't play for 3 days, the fans notice it." And so it's
a
sort
good
of one of
quote,
those. Yeah, it's one of those ideas where especially with hitting and all that
Yep.
stuff. Yeah, you don't want to get too far outside your routine to where now you're coming back. You're like, "Oh man." Like, that was faster than I remember it being,
Yeah.
whatever. So I would prefer to play, to answer your question,
Gotcha.
with 1 or 2 rest days if we could.
And I think you saw that, not to change sports, but in the NFL last year when the Lions had the first round bye, and then they come out in I guess that would be the wild or the divisional round, and then they get beat kind of uncharacteristically. And I think a lot of that had to do with, you've got all this momentum from a fantastic season. You get a week off. Yeah, it's great for resting your players, but like you were just saying, your motions, your repetitions, and of course they're still practicing, but practice is not the same as games.
And there's like like I said, a little bit of a come down.
Yeah.
When you realize, okay, we have a week.
Yeah.
So
let
it's
your guard down a little
yeah.
bit. I'm with you. I would rather keep going than stop and have a big break and then try to get. I mean, I think that's what hurt the Braves a couple years ago as well.
100%.
Huge season, way ahead. Kind of lost the drive to win and push, and then they get that break, and then they get beat in that series when they come back up.
There was one, I can't remember if it was what year it was, but there was one instance where all the buys got beaten.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was like, man, that sort of just speaks. I mean, there's various things, but
yeah, I mean, it's a pretty telltale
Yeah.
sign for sure. For sure.
Got to keep playing.
Well, Jay, I appreciate you
Hey.
jumping on with me.
Of
I won't
course.
ask you to come on Thursday.
No,
I
that's
promise.
okay.
I promise.
Yeah.
But we do have a cool show coming up on Thursday. As I mentioned earlier, Coach Mask, the Mosley Volleyball girls varsity coach, will be joining us. She has a son who's in the same situation as I am. Jay will be here as well. Worse looking Jay, not
Yeah.
better looking
Yeah.
Jay. And then my wife may sit in as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that conversation on Thursday. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy these beautiful mornings.